Hey, baby, it's time for night talks. I'm tired. I am tired. I might have to keep it short tonight. But I was talking about my bipolar. I don't really talk about my bipolar these days. You know, about the journey that I've been on with my bipolar. It's easy to say that I'm doing great right now. And surely enough, people think that like I have it easy, or that I don't struggle, or that I don't seem disabled, or that I I don't appear as though things are like looking like sunshine and roses for me. But they didn't see me 8 years ago when I got out of the hospital. And I was on such a high dose of medication that I was chemically lobotomized, is a word that I would use for it. I think that's correct. That I was literally drooling. Like I couldn't focus on anything. I tried to hold a pen to journal back then, and I literally couldn't hold a pen. I tried focusing on television, and I would just drool and fall asleep. My mother would cry watching me. She thought that this was just like my new normal. I was a ghost of myself. A shadow of myself. I was a shell of a human being. Like, lights are on, nobody's home. It was devastating. Do you know that song by Pink Floyd, Comfortably Numb? Where he says, I feel as though my hands are two big balloons. Yes, that is exactly what it felt like. I felt so disconnected from my body that I felt as though I might float away. That's what it felt like in those days. It was like a general discomfort of like being in a prison in your own body. Like wanting to scream, but not being able to. Wanting to run away, but not being able to. And just crying. General tears. And just sleeping all the time. But it got better. The hard times, they don't last forever. My doctors thought that it was a one-time thing. And they took me off the medication. And I had the worst episode. I had my rock bottom. And they said, nope, you are disabled. And I said, yep, I'm disabled. This is not just a fluke. This is not a fluke. And then reality set in. And then more hospitalizations piled up. I switched between being manic and being depressed. I think being depressed in the hospital is worse than being manic in the hospital. Because you will just sleep. And they will take your blood pressure. But they don't do anything if you don't get out of bed. If you don't feed yourself or do anything, they won't stop you. Time just passes and you're in the hospital and you're sleeping and nothing happens. You're just in the hospital. I think that's worse. Yeah. But each episode got a little bit easier. A little less extreme. I think my life changed when I learned transcendental meditation, which was really hard in the beginning because I had so much trauma and stress that I couldn't meditate for more than 15 minutes at a time. Like, it felt like I was on a roller coaster. Like, I would have to stop meditating because it would feel like my head was spinning. Like I was actively being flung around. And I said, like, I would feel like I was having out-of-body experiences. And I said, is this normal? And he said, it's just stress leaving the body. And I said, it hurts so much to meditate. And he said, just take it easy. Take it slow. And I said, I'll do the best I can. I'm like tearing up because it sucked. It sucked in the beginning. Like, if you meditate and you have a hard time with it, just keep going. Because it gets easier. Like, that's my biggest advice, is just keep going. Because eventually that stress will leave your body and you'll figure it out. But you have to get through the hard part to get to the easy part, because the stress will leave your body and you'll keep going. Especially if you do things like transcendental meditation. Like, do check-ins with your teacher and keep going. And give yourself time and rest. But like, if you have any sort of like mental illness, like anxiety or depression, or if you have any sort of like PTSD, or if you're a veteran, or if you have like bipolar like I do, I highly recommend transcendental meditation. It changed my life. It changed my life. And I know people are like, oh, meditation, it didn't work for me. But I'm telling you, give it a shot. It, if nothing else, is a tool in your toolbox. Because it's a specific form of meditation, it did something for me that has changed my life. It has changed my life. It was like the biggest gift I could give myself. It has literally changed my life. because I repeat a mantra, and what it did for me was it broke up the cycle of my manic episodes. So whenever I got too high, I would, or feel emotionally dysregulated, it would bring me down. And I would, because it gave me like a sense of schedule, it gave me back my life. I am so grateful to have learned transcendental meditation. It's one of the greatest things I've ever learned as far as like saving me in my mental illness. Like some of the other tools I learned in my toolbox are having yoga available to me, having my diet available to me, which is my vegetarian diet, having having my medication worked out with my psychiatrist, having my psychiatrist go to bat for me. I am so lucky in so many ways that I am surrounded with a support system that has helped me through all of this, that has helped me tackle all of these things that I feel like would have been impossible. Because it was something that a lot of people struggle with. And I would have struggled with it, but I managed to make it through. And I count my lucky stars. Every day I count my lucky stars. Anyway, I filmed a episode of Restitching the Tapestry with my best friend, Donnie. It was our 200th episode. It should be coming out next week, so check that out. I'm very proud to know Donnie. Very proud to know him. We didn't talk about the eclipse. That's the thing. There was the eclipse today. And I missed the eclipse because I was grocery shopping with my mom. Plus, I didn't have my eclipse glasses, so I missed it. But the eclipse was only like 1% in my town where I was living, so I wasn't really missing that much. You know what I mean? So, not that big of a deal. Sorry, I'm getting emotional tonight. I'm being very nostalgic. It's just like you think about like where you've come from, like how the glow up has been, how far you've come from where you've been over the past like 10, 15 years. Like just how bad it was and just how far you've come, how far I've come. And like, I'm doing really good. I'm very lucky. Like, I definitely was in a dark night of the soul. Like, I experienced definitely a really low moment and a dear moment. But I came back from that, and I am stronger than I've ever been. But it's taken me years. It's taken me years. And like, do I miss my life, what it was like before? Certainly. Do I miss the type of energy that I used to have when I was unmedicated bipolar? That type of life that I had? Certainly. But was it disordered? It was. It was not healthy, to say the least. I think that I approach life in a more orderly fashion. So it's a trade-off. Would I want to go back to that life that I had in Seattle? No. Because there were a lot of things that were wrong with that life in Seattle. Do I miss certain aspects of it? Yes. But would I ever want to go back to that life? No. There's only moving forward. And there's only getting better as I get older. Do I have regrets about the past? I do. But you can't change the past. You can only learn from it. You know, there are certain things I have guilt about with Seattle. About how it ended because of my psychosis. But I realized that some of it was a trauma response. Some of it was a stress response. And it was because I was at my breaking point that I could not handle anymore. And that I was literally crying for help. And that I was trying my best to hold it together and could no longer hold it together. And that I was literally falling apart. So it came out in aggressive ways, of course. And I paid for those ways. I did. And I learned some hard lessons because of those. I have learned since then coping skills of how to manage myself in psychosis, which I did not have the ability to do before that. That's something that that managing delusions and managing psychosis was a skill that I just did not have before, but I have built up over time. And so I took out my aggressions on other people physically because I did not have the coping skills to not do that. Does that make sense? That I was acting in the most base form of aggression because I was angry and scared and acting under false assumptions and that I was not clear thinking and that I wasn't clear about. I didn't know what was going on. Like I didn't realize that. Like now I can recognize that what I'm experiencing is not reality. That what I'm experiencing is psychosis. And before, I thought what I was experiencing was the truth, and everybody else was lying to me. Does that make sense? That like my reality, that I had no self-awareness. Does that make sense? And so I was acting aggressively because I was defending myself against attackers, against people who were trying to hold me back or who were trying to, who were trying to hold me back, who were trying to hold me down. And so I was only defending myself, quote unquote, against people who were not, who I thought were not showing my best interest. But they were. I just wasn't clear thinking at that time. So I've learned since then that how to manage those symptoms. It's been a long road though. And so that's probably like one of the hardest things to have to learn is sussing out people's intentions and also sussing out when I'm experiencing hallucinations and things like that because of reactions to medications. That's what I might be experiencing is not objective reality, which is really, really hard to deal with because it's like you want to believe that what you're experiencing is objective reality, that your reality is always like straight laced and that everything you're experiencing is like the reality that everybody else is experiencing. But it's so hard when you deviate from that. And it's so hard to like say, I am deviating from normal reality. And like to have that awareness of like, oh, this isn't the reality that everybody else is experiencing. And like to humble yourself and be like, oh, okay, I am not experiencing the reality that everybody else is experiencing right now. It's hard to know. And there's always a question about whether or not it is the reality that everybody's dealing with. And like, I'll always be like, is it or is it not? But like, inherently, I know that something is suspicious when things don't seem to align. And you can tell when things don't align. Sometimes I worry that people wanted me in the hospital because it was a psyop. That like it was the government messing with me or running tests on me or like, trying to lock me up. That was like part of my delusion, that it was like, or that it was like David Lynch trying to like lock me up so he can like do it for the show. That it was like part of like the drama, that it was like he was trying to confine me in a certain way and get the most out of his drama by like confining me to a space, and that he was getting the most out of his like show by like seeing how low he could make my life. That he went out of my way to like destroy my mental health. All for a production. And like, I did notice the last time I had struggled with my mental health was around the election. So it's like periods of high stress is like when I experience like really bad stuff. Like they went out of their way to like mess with my mental health during the election. I think about it now and like, are they slowly going to try to erode my mental health for this election too? Are they going to try to like make my mental health collapse for this midterm election? And what am I going to do to try to stop that? What am I going to do to try to preserve my mental health before they'd make it collapse? What am I going to do to try to stop people from messing with my peace? Because it's always something. Vote Democrat, or the world's going to burn down. Vote Democrat, or we're all going to hell. Everything hinges on this election, and you're going to have the most horrible anxiety during this election, because if the Democrats don't win, then it's going to be the worst night of your life. And it's just got to be that way. And if they lose, then you're screwed. But we're going to destroy your mental health in the meantime. All for the sake of profit. And please donate to our cause. Please donate to the party. Because isn't that how it works? Vote blue no matter who. Isn't that how they always go? And I don't mind voting Democrat, but the fact of the matter is that they will destroy your mental health for the sake of making you paranoid that everything is going to fall apart and everything hinges on them winning the election, and that you can't be, that your existence hinges on them winning, and that you have to give all of yourself to an election that you have one vote in. And that it's not equal representation, that it's not a fully represented system, that it's not, that it's because not everybody votes. Anyway, I'm going to go to bed because I'm done talking about this. I'm done letting my mental health suffer anymore talking about this election tonight. Don't let your mental health suffer because of this election. It is, I think that you should vote for Abdul Asaid for the Michigan Democratic election. I think that you should vote Jocelyn Benson. Although I don't necessarily think I think that she's probably the best of all the choices for Michigan governor. I don't think she's the greatest choice, but I think she's probably the best choice for governor out of the choices available to us. But don't destroy your mental health for an election. And that's the TLDR, is preserve your mental health for the sake of your well-being. Because that's more important than any election. Anyway, have a good night. See you on the next one. I will talk to you later.